Chiefs have a couple of open roster spots.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
You are Locked On Chiefs, your daily Kansas City Chiefs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to another Locked On Chiefs overtime episode. I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. He is Ryan Tracy from RGR Football. Today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. A little bit of happenings on the one day off that the Chiefs had. A little surprising as to how that works, but we're going to talk about some names to watch in the next segment. And if you didn't catch it, we talked with Matt Derrick earlier about the fact that they have two roster spots to fill because they put two players on IR.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. One was an easy decision with Ethan Downs getting tangled up in the first couple of days of practice, tearing that ACL. There's just no way around that. It sucks. I know if you missed the main show, go back and listen to that. And that there's optimism about what Ethan Downs is able to do. I did not have him projected to make the roster on my initial 53, but certainly need depth at that position. It leaves the pass rush, I think, a little bit thin and looking for answers. We'll talk about who some of those answers could be coming up later, but it's a key. If I was going to pick a position to not get anybody else hurt at, this would probably be right up at the top of my list, along with defensive tackle, since Omar Norman-Lott is already on the PUP list, and we don't have any more indication about when or where or what he might look like. Could be long-term, could be camp, who knows. There's a thinning already of the defensive line group as a whole, and it's making me nervous.
Well, and it goes beyond that because the reality is you're sitting here looking at a scenario where you talk about having issues at defensive end and defensive tackle. Now you also have an injury at tight end, which is another position that they are extremely thin at. And yeah, maybe Gillenborg wasn't going to make the roster, but to put him on IR now, there's going to be questions as to what can you do at that position? How can you improve it? Because they have Travis Kelce. What else do you think you have at that position right now? And I'm not saying Gillenborg was going to be that guy,
right,
but a guy that you had going into OTAs and minicamp that you were at least thinking was going to be able to take some snaps, you don't have anymore. And you were hoping that maybe he could be a practice squad guy potentially, or maybe he could end up showing more and give you something. But now he's on IR.
And honestly, I'm not a big believer in OTA standouts. We've been burned too many times over the last decade to think that because somebody stands out in OTAs that has never done so before, that all of a sudden they're going to carry that through, not only through camp, but through preseason games and then into the regular season. So I'm just not buying it. Sorry. That's just the way it is. So it leaves you with a whole lot more questions because he was one guy that at least we knew had the athletic ability to maybe go up and compete, could maybe raise his game. I think Wiley's about as tapped as he's going to get. I don't think you're getting much more out of Jared Wiley. I'll be honest. Same thing with Noah Gray. He's not going to see a big surge, in my opinion. So now with Gillenborg out, the next most athletic guy at this position is also coming off an injury. And I don't know that you can put all your eggs into the Brittany stool basket at this point. I had hoped to have a whole lot more out of him by now.
Yeah, and you don't. And I mean, here we are, training camp starting. The Chiefs have less answers at a position that we've been talking about for years that they need to figure out something, for who's going to be here after Travis Kelce. And now you're seriously looking at being short just at having enough tight ends to actually make you feel like you can have a practice the right way, let alone having somebody come in and be able to give you anything past what Travis Kelce can.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult shoes to fill. Hopefully somebody on the roster can step up. This does make that Mason Pline signing look better, just that you have a little bit more depth, but none of it is assured. And so you really do have to look outside the organization about who you can bring in to fill both of these, if not other positions as well. We're going to get to those names next.
Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Will the Kansas City Chiefs win the AFC Championship this season? The Chiefs are currently trading at about a 12% probability, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $784.91 if they take home the title. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade 25. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. You hop in here, and now it's a question of who can you go find? And the bigger problem, we kind of talked about this on yesterday's Daily Show, talking about could the Chiefs go trade for a guy like Vita Vea? And that's not the position we'll be looking at here. But the point was there's no money to go do anything with Vita Vea. So now you're in a situation where you're trying to add to a roster that has no money. And don't forget, while you have the 2 open roster spots, their salary is going to count against the Chiefs salary cap this year. So you are really shrinking everything right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Something's going to have to be done. They're going to have to replace this money. There's another restructure that's going to happen. They can't sustain any more injuries without even be able to replace those bodies. Even if they're not going to make the roster, you have to go do that. At this point, I don't know about you, but I am ready to go pull the trigger and give a little bit of money to Jonnu Smith, who I think is the most viable free agent tight end out there right now. There may be more later at cutdowns, et cetera, but right now, that's the direction that I would go. And I'm starting to think that maybe they need to pull the trigger on one of those restructures and just go get it done.
Well, they need to figure out something. And Jonnu Smith is maybe, I guess, a guy that you can go do that for. I look back at what we said before. And I know Kyle Pitts isn't an option now, but I'd be trying to go out and find somebody that can step in and be somebody that you can maybe get something from more than just this season. And
there isn't anybody out there, though. That's the problem.
I understand that. Well, can you go trade for somebody? Is there somebody that you can go trade for? I'm not talking about going and signing. I'm talking about, is there somebody that got replaced by a draft pick and teams know they're likely going to have to cut him, or he's not going to be a starter anymore, that you could go entice and get a young guy to come in and actually run through training camp with you. And more than that, learn from Travis Kelce, because there's added value in that.
Fair. I don't know who's going to trade with the Chiefs at this point in the season, though.
I get it.
There were 15 tight ends drafted. So to your point, that scenario is out there for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and I'm being overly optimistic. I know that the likelihood of that is probably pretty small, but Veach has to be doing something to fill the roster spots anyway. So while it's more than likely going to be a free agent of some sort, or maybe they're going to have some tryout players in and they're going to figure out something from there, it is what it is with that. But I would like to see them try to go make a different move and find somebody that can step in and give them something past 2026, because 2027, the cupboard is absolutely bare for.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'd be calling up friends. I'd be stomping the grass, to tell you the truth. If you're really looking to do that, maybe Jacksonville. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we don't know who they could be looking at. We don't know. I mean, only the teams that are out there in the NFL are going to have pretty good ideas to, the teams themselves are going to have a pretty good idea of if they think a tight end is going to be available, or for that matter, a defensive end, because they need that too. And we talked about this on the Daily Show with Matt. The reality is I think they have 7 left on the roster. That's not even enough to have 2 for 4 units, and they usually try to run four lines.
Yeah, it makes it very, very difficult. The tight end spot is a rough one. The guy that stands out to be at the defensive end, The edge rusher type is Bryce Huff. He is one of those more expensive ones. Matt will tell you there's no way that they can get that done. But if you have to go restructure somebody just to get an option, I think it's somebody you have to look at. If you're going to have to restructure someone anyway, make it worth the while. And Hassan Reddick's out there. Joey Bose is out there. I just don't buy either of those guys. Danico Autry doesn't do anything for me. Von Miller ain't coming here. I'm just looking at the list, and there just isn't a whole lot. So, 38-year-old Brandon Graham, no, thank you. Don't know that he wants to come back anyway. But you got to go find somebody, another body that you think can come compete. That's the key for me.
Well, and the competition is going to be hard. I don't know that they're going to be able to go out there and find somebody. And it goes back to the same thing. Maybe you can go out there and you can trade for somebody. Because the reality is like the defensive end position is always going to be something you're going to have to add to every single year in the draft. You cannot get old at that position. You absolutely have to be keeping young talent flowing through because you're not going to be able to afford to pay some of it. Although in 2027, as we've talked about, there are some guys that are going to be falling off. Travis Kelce likely isn't back. Chris Jones maybe isn't going to be here. Do they make some bigger changes knowing that they're losing two of their, I don't know, you want to call them superstars that have been the favorites? I mean, that's the reality is it's possible in 2027 we're not playing with Travis Kelce or Chris Jones. And if you do that, what are you talking about doing with the roster? Because at that point, you still don't want to waste a year of Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to have to figure out how you're going to adjust. And that's going to take something. That's going to take a whole different direction if they go that way.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, right now, Travis Kelce is the only one falling off. Chris Jones is under contract for next season. He's got 38.1 cap number. So that does play into it. They're 16 over the cap for 27 currently. So it's difficult. I will say there's one
Mahomes
other
is almost 90 million, right? So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we know that's got to change as well. There is one sweetheart deal, and if I was going to look at interior defensive line, maybe you have a little bit more there. Mario Edwards is 32, but he's out there. He can still play, at least in my opinion, he can. I personally would go cheap, and I'm just putting it out there for the Chiefs brass. Colin Saunders is still available. Why not bring him back? Why not?
Yeah, especially if and as we talked about again with Matt, especially if Omar Norman-Lott's not going to be available for the first month of the season or first 2 months of the season or however long they think he's going to be out. Because right now we don't know. And we will know a lot more when they hit the field tomorrow. And we're not going to know because Andy Reid's going to tell us something. But if you see Omar Norman-Lott in the tent, he is a lot closer to returning than he's not. That's going to be something to watch for when we start talking about injuries and who is going to be showing up in the field and who isn't. We will have you covered with all of that tomorrow on Chiefs Overtime, so be sure to check that out. That's going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.